Hey, kids, we're a couple of annoyed drunk boys, and this is the 138th Simpsons podcast.
All the lonely barflies confronting mortal dread, their souls in need of searching, they booze it up instead.
That's right, we're the podcast that explores the American animated sitcom The Simpsons from seasons 11 and beyond, and the newest episodes when they're available. Why do we do it like that? Well, first of all, there's plenty of other podcasts to explore the quote-unquote golden age of Simpsons, seasons 1 through 10, and also an entity known as the Wheel of Random has trapped us and forced us to watch things in such a manner. I say we because I'm one annoyed drunk boy named Steve, and with me, as always, is the other annoyed drunk boy,
Craig.
Hello, Craig.
I don't know if I want to be associated with you anymore.
Yeah. Last week, we started this episode with an apology because I admitted that while doing my research, I had screwed up the charts for the Billboard Hot 100s for the dance and alternative rock charts. But I gave what I thought was a very emotional apology, and I vowed to do better. And, well, I'm sad to say that there have been more mistakes made by me. First of all, when we were leading into the next week's episode, which is this week's episode, I mentioned that the Cremains of the Day was a parody of Remains of the Day, and I erroneously said that starred Daniel Day-Lewis, when in fact it stars Anthony Hopkins. And that was a bad mistake, and that would be bad enough because, that was an error and I was wrong. But then, listener Kate, WTF is Kate on Instagram, one of our greatest listeners, she pointed out that on her Instagram comments, yes, question for the annoyed grunt boys. In the episode of the 138 Simpsons podcast, Steve says the time machine was written by Jules Verne when it was in fact written by H.G. Wells. What, are we supposed to believe that this is some kind of magic, the time machine or something? Boy, I sure hope somebody got fired for that blunder. First of all, Kate, great quote, great reference. And also, yeah, I screwed up yet again. I know the difference between H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. In fact, a long time ago when I first started listening to podcasts, one of such podcasts was the Dead Authors podcast, which has Paul F. Tompkins playing H.G. Wells and often referencing his rival, Jules Verne. So, once again, I have screwed up, and I deeply, deeply apologize. I'm sorry. I wish I could say I'm only human, but I'm less than human because I'm a podcaster, and we're not allowed to make such mistakes. So, once again, with a little work and a little bit of forgiveness, I hope to be better to you, the listener, and to you, Craig, my co-host, because you deserve better. So, again, if you need to fire me, I'll understand.
No, that's fine. You can stay alive for the time being. Look, I even remember when you're making that comment about the time machine. Like, I think he's wrong there, but I'm not going to say anything because, I'd have to edit it out of the podcast, and I just didn't want to bother with that. So it's also partially my fault.
Yeah.
But I've kind of noticed something, that you've been pulling more blunders recently in the last few months, because I think you stopped drinking, and I'm wondering if the lack of alcohol is lacking your intelligence. You're losing some brain cells. I think you should be drinking some more. When I'm at a bar on a Saturday night around 1:30 a.m., I hear the most intelligent people. They're the smartest people. Those people at a bar at 2 a.m. I'm just thinking that maybe you should start drinking again and you won't be so dumb.
I mean, maybe you have a point because, for one thing, I know that I've sounded the smartest at bars, and hey, I've never won a trivia contest while not in a bar, so...
Yeah.
That does make sense.
And it was a Simpsons trivia contest.
Yeah, so speaking of drinking and The Simpsons, let's just talk about this week's episode. And while we do that, let's go back in time, all the way back to April 21st, 2024. Craig, what were we watching in the theater?
In the what? The theater?
In the theater.
You sounded very posh there for a second.
Sometimes I like to pronounce it with the R-E rather than the E-R.
All right.
Unless we're talking about George Clooney movies, then I have to talk about the E-R.
Well, that's a television show, not a movie. Maybe if you drank more, you would know that.
Fair enough. Me no smart.
Well, the number one movie in the box office was the A24, what do we call these? They're not horror movies, thrillers? Political thriller? Anyways, it's a Civil War. It's a movie that makes me too scared to go see. Like, I'll see like slasher horror movies and not worry about it. But this movie looks too on the nose and too political for me, I guess.
Yeah, I really do want to see this, but I'm also kind of afraid because I'm going to be like, oh, this isn't like a fantasy movie. This is just 6 months from now, maybe.
Yeah, if they threw like aliens and laser beams and shit like in that, I could escape. But if it's just, normal people, I haven't watched much trailers for this because I don't really want to know what's going in. But is it something like we're watching like newsreels and then is there like a narrative? I don't know. It looks fun, but I don't know. Give me some time to think about that one. I do want to see it, Steve.
If I'm going to see a Civil War movie, I want Captain America to be in front of the title.
Yeah, if I want to see a Civil War movie, I want to see one of the Sex and the City broads' husband in it.
That's right.
Okay. Hey, Steve, what you know about music?
Well, Craig, I know that the number one song on the Billboard Hot 100 is once again Like That by Future, Metro Boomin, and Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, our law firm that represents.
Yes.
I did that joke the last time. Yeah, we did this whole thing. Did you even do research here? Because it looks like the same songs from 2 weeks ago. Because the hot rock alternative is Too Sweet by Hosier, Country is Still Texas Hold'em by Beyonce, and the hot dance is The Houdini by Dua Lipa.
Yes. So, aware of my previous error, I triple and quadruple checked all of these charts. And basically, I think it's just that radio and pop music is on the verge of death. And so this is not a popular metric of what music is. Well, what popular music is popular at the moment. However, I think the next time that we have a new episode and that it's the new Taylor Swift album, we can all reset that. For instance, the Dua Lipa song has been number one for 16 weeks. Texas Hold'em has been the number one on the country charts for 9 weeks. I think Like That has been for like 3 weeks. And so it's just a repetition of what is already popular.
I have a new proposal right now. I'm proposing that maybe, well, I don't know if we could do this based off of it might be a political decision, but, and I'm talking American politics, by the way. What if we do because the idea of doing the music and the movies in the segment was to have it so like in the future, if people listen to this podcast to know like what the culture was into at the time. And you're right. I think these Billboard charts, are they indicative into like the pop culture of the day? I don't know. That's why I'm thinking, what if we talk about in the allotted time, like from new seasons, I'm talking these season 36 after this season, that we do what is the hottest TikTok trends.
Ooh, I like that.
But I'm saying that's only based off of if they ban TikTok in America.
Right.
Who knows? Again, we're not a political podcast, so we're not going to say either on this at all. But like, I think that would be interesting. Like, what's the internet trends? So maybe going forward from the next season, 36 and on, that's our tease.
Oh, yeah. We'll be regular Taylor Tomlinson's exploring the hot internet trends like on After Midnight.
There you go. I love it. All right.
Cool. I like it. But for now, let's talk about this week's episode, Cremains of the Day, in which when someone in Homer's life passes away, he and some guys from Moe's go on a road trip to scatter the ashes. Woo! Alrighty, let's give it a watch, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Today we are talking about Cremains of the Day, the 15th episode of the 35th season. It originally aired on April 21st, 2024. It is episode 765 in the show's run. Your nerd code is 35ABF09. It was written by John Frink, directed by Gabriel DeFrancesco, and your showrunners are Matt Selman, Tim Long, and Al Jean.
All right, Jonathan Frink. Do you know how many episodes we reviewed of his?
No.
I'm going to let you know right now. 18.
Whoa.
So we're legally allowed to date John Frink.
Or at least his episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, he wrote with Don Payne in his first night episodes. R.I.P. Don Payne, of course.
Mm-hmm.
the last one that we reviewed was Barless from season 34, which was his last credit before this one. Not to mention seasons 33, Pixelated and Afraid, probably our favorite episode of the newer seasons. Maybe like from season, let's just say 25 and beyond.
Probably, yeah.
It might even be from 8 and beyond. But, he's up there on the Simpsons Rushmore of writers, along with your Tim Longs, Schwartzwelder, and Seth Rogen. That's the worst Seth Rogen laugh ever, Steve.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
But we still have plenty of more. He's got a total of 37, Steve, and we're not going to do the joke from Clerks. We're just going to say 37 without doing that Clerks joke, all right?
Right.
Okay, good.
In a row. Steve. Sorry. I had to do it. I can. Yeah.
We're just going to have to edit that out. And don't forget, he was a writer for the short-lived, hilarious sitcom Hope and Gloria, which we did a podcast about that during the time, but since podcasts weren't a thing, it was just us recording on 4-track tape cassettes. Saying you could find those tape cassettes at your local Portland Metro Goodwill. It's donated a while back. They're still there.
Yeah, they're Maxell High D, 120. We left the second side blank, so if you want to record your favorite Bangles album or whatever, you can do that as well.
No, Steve, actually the B-side, it was the recording of the Portland Trail Blazers rap album that came out in the early 90s that I taped off of Z100. It's still there.
The Rip City Rap?
Yeah. Can we cue that music real quick?
Yeah, please do.
Slammer jammer jump shot, blazers burning red hot. Rip City repeat, winning to a new beat. Big and proud in the NBA. Sacking hot stats every time we play. Teamwork, bounce pass, poise pride, first class. Hot seats courtside, Blazer bus free ride. Halftime home team, game enhancers. Talking about Portland's Blazer dancers. Fast break flying, keep on trying. Now we're smoking, now we're skying. We ain't messing, we ain't lying. Portland's winning, so stop your crying. Rip City, Rip City. Portland, Oregon, USA. Rip City, we're the Blazers and we love to play.
I gotta say, for my own critical piece, the song is better than I remember it. The rapping part is good. The chorus of all them saying Rip City, Rhapsody is not so great. But I do appreciate that they're just saying basketball words most of the time, like bounce past, hoop, dribble the ball. Nobody plays basketball like y'all.
Would you want them to talk about an ex-lover? That wouldn't make sense.
No, that's true. I mean, they could make it educational, though, and talk about, the Oregon Trail and, their namesake Trailblazers.
I don't think they want that. That's not what the fans want. We just want them to say that they're great at the basketball. And to support them.
That's true, and nothing will beat them except for the Chicago Bulls.
So it came out in 1990, and I was 8 at the time, but I remember memorizing that song. It was probably one of the first songs I ever memorized. And then performing it in elementary school.
That's really funny.
But besides that song, I swear there was a slew of other songs that they just would parody. I remember that song Baby Love, Baby Love.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Love. I remember there was Blazer Love. But then one whole day, I just remember having to be home and hit record on the Z100s to record the whole Blazer album because I think they were playing it for an hour.
Yeah, I think a lot of basketball teams did this in the 90s, but I also think they did a version of Whoop, There It Is, but replaced Whoop with Hoop. Hoops, There It Is.
Is this all because of the 86 Chicago Bears football team?
I think so, yeah.
How they did the Super Bowl shuffle, then every team had to start doing an album. And late 80s, early's rap was so unoffensive at the time.
Right, because it's all I'm Steven... wait, I can't rap.
Yeah, no. But you had Run DMC, who were these dorky comic book kids, they loved dorky shit.
Yeah.
And they're talking about rapping about their shoes, their Adidas,
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about capitalism, and everyone loved capitalism in the 80s. Now we hate it, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But it's good that we're starting off with, talking about, like I said, the Super Bowl shuffle, the Bears, because I think we should start the episode. Maybe there's some NFL talk in the beginning.
Ooh, appropriate.
Yeah.
That's right. Our episode begins, as it always does, at Moe's as the sun rises. The rat atop the tavern welcomes the morning by hacking in a rooster-like fashion, while inside, the titular bar opens up for his patrons, and happy that he's opening up at 6 a.m. Carl thanks Moe, and then the NFL, for playing the worst games every year in London. Now, Craig, you're a bit more of a sporto than I. Do you know why or how often or what the deal is with them playing NFL games in London, England?
Yeah, so Obama lost a bet to the Queen of England.
Makes sense.
During his, so that's why. No, I have no idea. I think it's, this is an NFL thing they do, but they always do it, I think, at the beginning of the season, like almost like the first, it's usually the first game. And I think it's just to like, for us Americans to go, like, no, this is really what football's about, not what you call football.
I mean, I guess it does make sense since, we have one. The U.S. is like the reigning Super Bowl champion of the world, much like we rule the World Series. So I guess it's good that we share it with other countries.
But yeah, I think they've only been doing it for a couple of years. It seems silly that the NFL does this, but I think it's just for them to like drum up interest and maybe like talk about expanding. It's probably the NFL like wants to start an American football league in the UK.
I can see that.
Interest that way. It's like, well, you guys like football and you like rugby, but do you guys like commercials more? Because that's what the NFL is. Commercials.
Yeah, 3 hours of broadcast and maybe 10 minutes of play.
Yeah. But look, you could get drunk and eat a lot of crappy food, which I guess that's all you do in England anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But like here in Portland, speaking of football, bars open early, but for football, for soccer, because there's a huge... In Portland, we have a huge soccer, the Portland Timbers, Major League Soccer here. There's a huge soccer / football, I'm using the correct term, culture here. So yeah, bars open early for actual, games that are going on in England or Germany or whatever. They open early here for those games. So soccer's huge in Portland. It's, we just play the Blazers, but, I think the Blazers aren't as popular as they used to be.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right. I think that we're clamoring for other sports because, as we mentioned before, I live next to the premier Philadelphia Eagles bar in Portland, and there's a lot of these different bars for different teams from other sports that we don't have in Portland, and they're, really regionalized. So, yeah.
Yeah, we have a bar called the Sports Bra, which is a bar in Portland that is geared to only female professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a huge female sports fan group in Portland. So much so that the Sports Bra, I just read that there could be franchising that out. Like it's going to be coming to your town near you. One of the founders of Reddit, I forget the guy's name, but he's investing in it. And his partner's like Serena Williams. So yeah, I could see this being Sports Bra in your Seattles, your Los Angeleses, and New Yorks, Chicago's, probably nowhere south of Denver, Colorado, but still.
But yeah, I mean, there are some places where that would do really well, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, which I still haven't been to that bar yet. I heard it's supposed to be good. The food's supposed to be good, so maybe one of these days, Steve, we'll catch a Thorns game.
That sounds great.
Big old TV.
Yeah.
The Thorns are the professional female soccer team in Portland. But Steve, let's go back to Moe's Tavern, okay? Homer is in delight to spend Sunday morning as God intended him to be, which of course is not in church. And as Lenny points out, he's still drunk from the previous evening. You ever had to do that? I kind of remember this, the old days of hanging out the bars with you, and it'd be Saturday night, and start off drinking, and then we're drunk, and then someone makes us a suggestion to do something Sunday that might involve drinking. We all drink until 3 a.m. They're oh yeah, we'll wake up at 7, meet up at 9, and start the day drinking again. And it's you do that because you could, you're in your 20s, all right, well, I'm still a little drunk, but here we go again.
Mm-hmm. Then by 11 a.m., you're dead.
Yeah. No, still even in your 20s, you could do it. But now, if someone suggests something like that, then you're although, actually, no, that happened to me and some of my 40s. This happened a few weeks ago. We were drinking, and we had mentioned that, the Chicago Cubs are in Seattle, this weekend, and this was Saturday night, and like, there's a day game at Sunday at 1:00. And Seattle from Portland is about 2.5 to 3 hour drive, just depending on traffic. Because there's always going to be like an accident no matter what, or traffic delays if you try to go from Portland to Seattle, no matter what. And so, of course, we're like, 11:30, midnight, we're like, yeah, let's get up early, because you got to get up at like 8 o'clock to go to Seattle on Sunday morning. So, let's get up and drive to Seattle and watch the Cubs. And we did. There was no like, that was a dumb idea. Let's just stay in and nurse our hangover. But we were able to sally forth and have fun there in Seattle, Steve.
That's good. That sounds like a good time, actually.
I didn't invite you because we know you're a Montreal Expos fan, and they haven't been a team.
Go Expos. Next year is going to be your year.
Because you didn't follow them when they went to Washington and became the Nationals, right?
What?
Yeah, Steve, it's been a while.
I had no idea. I need to...
Are you still wearing your Andre Dawson jersey?
Yeah. His number is the best number.
He was number 8 on the Cubs. I don't know what he was for the Expos. Maybe he was the same.
I'm going to assume so.
We're just talking sports here. Let's, I think we should just go to a clip, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to go to England, where there's some exciting gridiron action.
Welcome back to Wembley Stadium, where the score at the interval is Jacksonville Jaguars 25, Buffalo Williams 0.
Oh boy, I got £100 on the Jaguars, and I don't even know how much that is.
I'm Buffalo all the way. 10 bob, 6 shillings, baby.
Hey, I've dabbled in a lot of anonymouses, but never gambling. Yeah, I always thought betting was for class acts like James Bond, Pete Rose, Secretariat.
Why don't you give it a try, Mosef?
Yeah, make one little bet on the next game. Baltimore-Detroit. It's harmless fun.
Yeah, all right, I guess I could bet a buck. That's nothing to get too worked up about.
I really enjoy the announcer calling them the Buffalo Williams.
I'm going to start calling the Buffalo Bills the Williams now.
Mm-hmm.
There's something fun about taking a nickname or a shortened name and then using like the full name. Like, for instance, like Jersey Mike's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start calling it Michaels of New Jersey. It's a lot funnier, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy John's, it would be James Jonathan's.
Going over to Thank God It's Fridays for lunch. And then my child is having a birthday party at Charles Entertainment Cheeses.
Or like we ordered pizza from Father Jonathan.
I prefer Father Murphy, but yes.
Father Murphy is a local establishment that our fans outside of the Pacific Northwest won't know.
That's true.
But you get the point, Steve.
Yeah.
So Homer's bet, he said £100, and that's around like $123.54. I was just doing the conversion in my head.
Sure, of course.
How much it would be. Carl's bet, he said, 10 bob and 6 shillings. I think 10 bob is, hold on, it's about $1.40, $44. $1.44 and 6 shillings is like, I know that. It's like 39 cents.
Of course.
It's about $1.83. So not much more than what Mo spent.
Low stakes bet.
I mean, that we know, because Mo is reaching into his chip jar to grab a single bill, I think, right?
Yeah, and is that the same one that he had from last week that that Homer tipped him?
Didn't Homer tip like a 20?
And maybe it was, but so yeah, maybe it's not the same one.
It's weird because I know, we don't. This is random, of course, except for like the new episodes. But it's just a weird like this episode feels like it was almost a sequel to last week's episode from season 13.
Yeah, it's a weird connection. There's always a weird connection.
The last week's episode ended in a bar, and this one begins in a bar. It's like almost like the next day. Like there's that tip, like you said, that Homer. Like I want to consider that canon. Like we are in this, TV now is very serialized. I feel like we're in this serialized Simpsons run because also it was weird. We didn't have Larry wasn't anywhere in last week's episodes. We made a point of like, where's Larry and Sam, the other barflies, because they should have been a part of the Moe's transition too, and hanging out at Homer's bar.
Yeah, and now here he is. Yeah.
Well, I think we know why he wasn't in last week's episode. He was a little busy, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it because, the Sapphire's coming up. That's where he was.
Yes. So yeah, Moe reaches into his tip jar and grabs a single dollar bill and reluctantly hands it to Homer. And so checking the Wager Walrus app, which, use offer code AnnoyedGruntBoys and get your next bet for free. Homer places a bet saying that the walrus has his own money.
Going back to that clip earlier, it was when Mo was listing off like all the people like gambling is cool for, like he said, James Bond or Pete Rose or Secretariat. I feel like they could just easily ad-libbed a new line and said Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, yeah.
To make it time. I mean, he's not, there's no, precedent of him gambling, but just be kind of a funny joke.
Yeah.
For modern gamblers. And if Shohei's, we're really turning into a sports show, aren't we?
I'm just proud that I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And if Shohei is gambling and they let him in, like, just let Pete Rose back in, like, put him in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be there.
Yeah. I don't think anybody cares. It's just let him have it.
It's really weird now that, like, gambling is so much about sports. And, like, even when you're watching a live game, they show you odds of, like, okay, this guy's going to strike out. Here's the odds. So go gamble. Fucking, like, Pete Rose, he was gambling on the game, but, I don't think he was gambling on his games, right? His games? Yeah, I don't think he was.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Anyways, we're not a sports podcast. I think we talk more about sports than politics now on this podcast.
Yeah, not a Sporto podcast.
All right. Well, as the non-British commentator announces, the Ravens are taking on the Detroit Lions. Mo watches the game with great anticipation as Detroit scores. Baltimore then ties it up, and Mo raises his hand. Enjoy. So the Lions score a field goal, causing Mo to bite his fist when the Ravens make it to the end zone. And Mo does the worm across the bar, and then Detroit makes a comeback, and Mo covers his eyes. And then the Ravens get back on top, and once again, Mo does the worm. And when the game is up for grabs, Mo opens a pack of Larry's and starts eating the cigarettes. And then a lion is injured. The player, not an actual lion, Steve. So then Mo does the worm again. And all this tension is causing Mo to pull on his ears and then causing his eye holes to droop.
So the game is nearly over, and Mo, in a sweaty A-frame undershirt, thinks that he just may win. Was he a winner all this life? So he pops open a bottle of champagne, but just then, the Lions score a last-minute safety, winning the game. After saying, "D who scores an unwhat, and where's our what-torious?" Mo curses Baltimore and curses them as crab-infested Edgar Allan Poe munchers. Take that, Baltimore resident and lifelong Ravens fan Bill Oakley. And so Mo scoops the spilled bubbles back in the champagne bottle in shame.
I feel like they could have added Mo also saying, like, curses Baltimore as a crab-infested Edgar Allan Poe muncher, horrible bridge builders. Too soon?
Again, we're being more timely than The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah, we're not supposed to be timely on this. Oh, new episodes, we're allowed to be timely.
That's right.
Old episodes, we're not allowed to be timely. Okay. Which we don't follow both those rules, but still, here we are.
But we make them.
This episode does reference, back to sports, Steve, 2 real-life games from 2023, the Jacksonville versus Buffalo in London, that was the right teams. The Jaguars were up 25-0, and Detroit and Baltimore, which Mo loses after the bet, wins a last-second safety. So even the Simpsons are being timely here. So we know where to pinpoint this episode, right?
It's true.
But Jacksonville did score 25 points in their actual 2023 matchup against Buffalo, but won 25-20 after leading 11-7 at halftime. However, in the actual Detroit-Baltimore game, the Ravens won 38-6 in a game where Baltimore dominated the entire game. So that was the real one. The ones I said before was fake, right?
Right, of course.
Okay, the thing I said before was fake. This one was real.
All right.
It's almost like I'm just reading the notes as is. Okay.
So Carl tells Mo to calm down since he only lost $1. It may just be $1 to Carl, but to Mo, it was a whole simoleon. Angered, Mo tells everyone to get the hell out of the bar, pushing Homer, Lenny, and Carl out of the bar with a wet mop.
Do you feel that same way too, like when you gamble? Because we're not really gamblers, but when we used to go to the bars, we would put maybe like 5, 10, sometimes 20 into the video poker machines. But even if we lost it all, we feel like that sucks. Like we both lost like $10, but to us it's like
right. It's like, oh, we lost so much, but it's basically like a drink.
It's entertainment value, but still, I'm just like, I could have bought back in those days. I could have bought like 40 items at Taco Bell with that $10.
Yeah, or some groceries.
Half our rent.
But this economy?
Could have been, yeah, that could have been our whole cable bill for a year. Anyways, so he's doing the same thing to Barfly Larry and calling him Slumpo. So that's his new name, Slumpo. So he pokes Larry the head with the mop and finds that he's not responding. And then Mo turns the mop around and pokes him in the forehead and then in the eye, which creates this very fun, whirring, squishy sound. And then as Larry's head falls to the bar, Homer makes the discovery that Larry is dead.
Whoa, man. So we then go to the Morning Glory, that's M-O-U-R, Morning Glory Funeral Home, which promises to wake you up before you go. And as the Simpsons arrive, Homer is reluctant to attend Larry's service and tells the kids that they don't need to go to his eventual funeral either. But Marge thinks that Homer should pay his respects, considering the time spent at Moe's versus the time that he spent with his actual children.
I don't know why we had to come here. Funerals are stupid. You're all excused from coming to mine.
Good, I had some that day anyway. I didn't have anything that day.
Homer, you have to pay your respects. You spent more time with Larry than your own kids.
That's not true at all.
Who's my best friend? What's my favorite subject? Who do I admire most in the world? How old am I and what color is my bike?
Pass. Crackle from Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Pass. And trick question, you have a skateboard.
Huh. I'm strangely comforted by the passes.
Steve, I'm going to quiz you. Besides, you can't use your name on this. Who's my best friend? What's my favorite subject? Who do I admire the most in the world? How old am I? And what color is my bike?
Well, I'd say your own best friend. Your favorite subject is probably science. Your hero is Tony the Tiger. You're probably 52. And you have a scooter.
If you would have kept with the first answer for all of them, it would have been true. My best friend is me. My favorite subject is me. I admire me the most.
Sure.
I'm me years old. And the color of me is me.
That's all very true, yeah. The color of me is me sounds like a autobiography.
Let's say, or like a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, it's also, yeah.
For you, I'll do the, your best friend is one of your dumb cats. Your favorite subject is coffee. You admire Juan Valdez. You're 69.
Nice.
And the color of your bike is clear, because it's one of those like 90s bikes where everything, you were like in the 90s, everything was like had a clear thing, like a clear Game Boy or a clear radio or a clear telephone.
Mm-hmm. You can see the wires of the bike.
Yeah, so you get all the wires and knickknacks in your bike. Did I get those right?
Yeah, they're all correct. Yeah, won't be 70 until November, so yeah, you're in the clear.
Nice. But that was a great run from Lisa and and Homer. But like Marge is interested in this episode. Like she doesn't care, obviously, about Larry, but she wants Homer and his friends to care. So the fact that she's dragging him, and and Homer doesn't want to be at this funeral. No one wants to go to funerals. I understand.
Yeah, they're awkward and awful.
Right. What's worse, funerals or weddings?
Oh, I mean, weddings usually have an open bar.
Funerals have an open casket, so weigh those out, Steve. What's funny is like both scenarios always ends up with like a reception where everyone gets drunk.
Yeah.
And do they usually end with random hookups?
Based on the funerals I've been to, yes. I don't think I want like a funeral.
Yeah, I don't, again, I'm dead, so what does it matter, right?
Exactly, yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
I'm sure you'll get a funeral, and I'm sure I'm going to do the eulogy. How's next week sound?
Sounds great. Yeah, you can do your Spock thing, and yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Thursday okay? I'm open Thursday.
No need to belabor it. Just make it Wednesday.
Hump day. All right. Hey, let's go inside the funeral home. There's a framed Sears portrait of Larry sitting next to the urn holding his remains. So the Simpsons walk in to find, as Marge puts it, a light turnout with just one woman sitting in the front row. So Mo, Lenny, and Carl arrive, and Marge is glad to see them. Carl responds that there was no way they couldn't since Larry was around. Mo assumes that the proper protocol is to throw a tip into the urn, deciding $1 is a good amount, 5, 1, and $1.
One's good. Seeing that the service might take some time, Bart invites Lisa to join him to crash a few funerals. And since she's already wearing a dress, although she wears a dress every day, but a fancy dress, Lisa agrees. First up is the service for Pauline McAllister. The sea captain, Captain McAllister, says that as Pauline sails alone across the wine-dark seas of eternity, she shall remain evermore in our hearts. As he offers a solemn "Yar, IP," we see that Pauline, or maybe I should say Polly's, talons are pointing to the sky in her coffin. The sea captain finally gives Polly what she always wanted, placing a cracker on the dead parrot's body. I like the fact that it's like, oh, Pauline McAllister must have been the sea captain's wife or something, but no, it's just his parrot. So Captain McAllister and the rest of the seamen let out a sad "R's" of mourning.
I'm sorry, Steve, the rest of the what?
The seamen.
You said seamen.
They were all on the dinghy. Better that than on the buoy.
Hey, where was Handsome Pete? He wasn't there. I was a little sad about that.
Yeah, he and Polly had a falling out.
Well, Polly does want a cracker. I think I'll shoot it off her first.
From that hot new clothing brand, Nirvana.
Hey, I've been up to Seattle the past couple weeks. Steve, I'm all about Nirvana.
Yes, Nirvana.
That awesome Walmart brand clothing company, Nirvana.
Yeah.
Well, in another funeral service, men carry a coffin as Bart hangs on, telling Lisa that he's burying Paul. Now, was that guy actually named Paul?
Probably, yeah. It was.
Okay.
This is like, on the day that this is, they serve mostly Pauls. They have Pauline and they have Paul. Just when, it was, yeah, a lot of Pauls died on that day.
Oh no, I'm dead. Ding the big ding ding.
It's a great Paul Anka impression.
R.I.P. Paul McCartney or Paul Simon. You might be dead by the time this episode airs. We don't know.
Very true.
All right. So after Lisa pulls her brother away, they attend the service of Mayor Quimby's aunt, Eunice, who saw him and his kin through so much triumph and sorrow. So he takes comfort that she dies at 92 of natural causes. And then a man in the pew stands up, questioning the natural causes, claiming that she clearly died from the vaccine. And Diamond Joe tells Robert F. Quimby Jr. to shut up, saying that he's an embarrassment to his family. And that's saying a lot. Obviously, that's a reference to future president number 47, Robert F. Kennedy, right?
Yes, Jill. Yeah. He and First Lady Shell Hines are going to be great.
Do you think, when he concedes, or obviously he's not going to win, but someone's going to edit the video of him giving his speech, and then it's going to end with a
oh yeah,
Hines face.
No doubt about it. Yeah, you got it. So Reverend Lovejoy arrives tardy to Larry's service, but Alice Glick quickly catches him up. She tells him that the funeral is for a sad, balding drunk who hung out at Moe's. So Reverend Lovejoy thinks he's got it, and begins his speech by saying that Homer Simpson was a beloved pillar of the community. So hearing this, Marge tells Homer to do something, but Homer's happy to hear nice things about himself, pointing out that Marge never called him a pillar. And then Alice Glick whispers to the Reverend, telling him that Homer is not, in fact, dead, and then points him out into the crowd. And so once Timothy is aware of who actually died, he invites the deceased mother to speak.
Anywho, and now a few words from Larry's mother, Iris Dalrymple.
Well, my Lawrence always talked about his best friends, the fellows at Moe's Tavern. It would warm my heart if they came up and shared fond memories of my son.
I'm not talking. You talk.
I didn't know him.
No one did.
Your store was closest.
Perhaps one of you could talk about Larry's love of fishing.
One time we went to this great fishing lake, Lake Fish.
Oh, yeah. Fish Lake was full of fish.
You know who always caught the biggest fish?
Who?
I want to say Larry?
Big Fish Larry.
Oh, yeah. Larry indeed.
Watch out, fish.
What a true story.
And that little bit with Lenny saying, like, you knew who caught the biggest fish, and Homer legitimately like, oh, I want to know.
Yeah. Just the way that they're coming up there and like, you talk, no, you talk. It just really speaks to like when you're in school and you have a group project that you didn't quite finish.
Yeah. Yeah, and having to speak at funerals.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No.
We've had to do it before.
Mm-hmm.
The last one I had to do was tough. I'm just like, look, the 13 of us would just be hanging out, having fun, you know, drinking some wine, eating some fish, and then, you know, we're all thinking you're the coolest, JC, you know, like turning that water into wine for us. But hang in there. We'll see you soon. You know, it was very embarrassing. My good pal JC that passed away.
Yeah.
Were you part of that group, Steve? Or were you kind of the Judas of our group?
I think I was kind of the outcast.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing that pissed me off about JC was that time we had to like sit at a table for like 12 hours while some guy named Leo painted us. It was annoying.
It's like, stop playing with those katanas and get to painting. I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. The last funeral I went to was Jesus Christ, Steve. How about you?
Yeah, I think that was the last one for me too.
Funerals is tough to talk.
Yeah, it's weird, and
I guess from like the Simpsons side, like they're also trying to eulogize some dude they didn't hang out with.
Right.
And, you know, look, I'll bring it back to the bar, you know, stories. Like there's been many of customers, you know, that have passed away from the bar that we used to hang out with. And I kind of don't attend their funerals or services because I'm like, do I need to be there? Like, I just feel weird, like going to the family, like, so sorry, who are you? And the family's like, okay, who are you? I'm like, oh, we used to get drunk together. You know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I kind of thought about like the bar that we used to frequent, and like selfishly, I kind of thought about like, if I died, would I be like the Larry of the group, or like people are like, oh yeah, he used to go to this bar. I didn't know about him, but like he hung out with Craig, and yeah, like, and I'd be okay with that. But yeah, it's weird to. The bar funeral is a weird thing because yeah, there's so many people that you talk to when you're half drunk, and you have this like kind of okay conversation, but then, you know, you kind of move along and you don't really know anybody.
Right. It's not like, you know, you're having a relationship outside of said bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then does Larry's mother really remind you of like Cliff Clavin's mother from Cheers, played by the late great character actress Frances Sternhagen, who actually recently just passed away in 2023, November 27th. She was 93, Steve. She
oh, wow.
Finally left this mortal coil. But yeah, kind of like those same kind of vibes.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Which we might like, that'd be a funny way to do like a Cheers reunion of like, you know, they're at Cliff's funeral, but then it turns out like Cliff's not dead. They just assumed he died. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like if the Cheers, like, I don't feel like any of those people would catch up on like where Cliff is now.
Yeah, maybe maybe somebody read an obituary about a mailman that died.
Yeah,
and they like
have it.
They just assume that it was Cliff, and so they have this big funeral, and then they're just like, Cliff shows up at the funeral.
Yeah, like at the end,
right? To you know, pay his respects to a fellow postal worker.
So after Moe and Lenny and Carl and even Homer run back to their seats, Marge asks why they never got to know Larry. And Moe responds that at least they came, unlike Barney, who had something more important to do, like the selfish jerk that he is. We then cut to Barney in a Nicaraguan village where he tells the villagers in Spanish that their well is complete and that they finally have clean water. The locals cheer and Barney lets out a loud belch, or as is known in Espanol, eructo.
Yes, eructo means belch.
I'm liking this Barney, like that he's doing like great work, humanitarian work.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he's providing water for people and in a very exploited land. So yeah, good for Barney. I mean, he's probably back on the horse or on the wagon, or he's drinking, but at least he's doing something that's a sober time and, you know, helping people get drinks of their own. But in this case, it's water.
So what if it it's, we've always talked about like what's Barney's job, and we assumed he worked at Barney's Bolorama because that's his uncle, right? His name Barney as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what if like that's why he does these like humanitarian things, but then he goes back to home and is like just sees how like horrible a lot of people in the world live, and that drives him to drink.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like he tries to do so much good, and sometimes he just feels so powerless because like no matter how much he does, there's still more that needs to be done, and so he's just like, I can't take it anymore, and I got to drink.
Okay, I'm with this. The Simpsons solvers solved the case of Barney's job.
We've done it.
Even though like we just saw it on TV, but we're putting more story into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides Barney not being there, which Barney I feel like is not really part of the group anymore.
Yeah, I feel like it's the Homer, Lenny, and Carl, and I mean Moe obviously, but like Homer, Lenny, and Carl, it kind of makes more sense too because they all work together. So after work, they'd all go to the bar.
Well, and it's interesting, like continuity wise, thinking of those four guys, and then Barney not being part of that group because they, when those four guys started hanging out, that's when they made Barney sober. But if you think of like continuity, they will do flashbacks with Carl and Lenny and Homer as teens.
Mm-hmm.
And Moe. What if Barney was the Marching Prince of their group?
Oh.
Remember, Barney was a straight A student until he started drinking beer.
It's true.
So my theory is that Barney was never really like Homer's best friend. And they only really hung out because of the alcohol, much how like you and I hang out. Now we can't hang out anymore because you don't drink.
Right.
But I'm saying that Barney, after he got sober, and now he's back drinking again, but he's not as bad as it used to be. So because he's got to do all this humanitarian work.
Mm-hmm.
He was a smart guy. I think he's the Martin Prince of Homer's youth.
Oh, I like this. This is a new discovery, and I think I'm on board. Makes sense.
You're much like a bank, Steve.
I make sense.
Yes.
So Homer tells Marge that Larry didn't quite fit in the Moe band of bros, and Carl agrees, saying that the four of them are closer than close. Moe adds that they're like the Sex and the City broads, except super gross. And if I may, they're less problematic and better written. It's a bad show. Homer says that Larry just wasn't part of their deal, but Marge thinks it's because they never asked him to be. She feels that all he ever wanted was a simple human connection, but instead he died, unloved, in a bar. We then have this really kind of beautiful homage to Larry, with great animation of him drinking and existing alone, as Moe and the bar patrons enjoy themselves. And it's all accompanied by a great kind of parody song of the Beatles. Let's take a listen.
Look at all the lonely barflies. Look at all the lonely barflies. Larry the barfly sat at a stool every night, and he ordered a beer, shedding a tear. Look at him eating, checking his phone all alone as he sits with his pain. Chicken chow mein. All the lonely Larrys, they all come to an end. All the lonely Larrys, forgotten by their friends.
Is it possible we're terrible people?
Yes, but the one I'm really disappointed in is Lenny.
What?
He just always struck me as a sensitive guy with a good heart.
I did?
Alrighty, so that was obviously a beautiful song, a tribute and kind of a parody of the Beatles' Eleanor Rigby. I love the animation, the kind of French style, kind of washed out colors. It seems like a fine animation that would win like Emmys for like short form animation. And I just love the way that it captures Homer and his crew having the time of their lives. They're playing on each other's shoulders while Moe wields a shotgun. And we see Larry living this sad, lonely existence, going to his bar, drinking alone, and then going to a Chinese restaurant by himself, and then walking to a sad apartment. I just think it's so beautiful the way that works.
A great job directing, animation directing, which, we was talking about the writers, but this Gabriel DeFrancesco, who directed it, just really is evoking that motion of loneliness, with the song. And I think that grainy film type quality, like you say, and with like kind of looking like a French existentialist cartoon, that's very relatable too. I think we've all been kind of in that situation where life moves around pretty fast, and if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you can miss it. God, that sounds very familiar. What's that quote from, Steve?
Sounds like a great philosopher.
Someone who's married to one of the Sex and the City broads. We was also watching that animation too. Everything around him is all that kind of grainy background color, but showing Larry's the only one who's like in the full colorful animation spectrum. Like, I think it's just he's a dude that lives in his head. There's so many people that just live in that space. That's why I think like this is very relatable. Not everyone's a social butterfly like Lenny, Carl, Moe, and Homer.
Right. And we all kind of live this a lot of people live this kind of lonely existence, and they see the world around them kind of having all this fun, and you're just like, yep, here we are.
Right. So well done in establishing the tone for this episode and bringing the sadness to it. So kudos. Hey, there's some shops that we've seen before, like News at 11 from Last Exit to Springfield.
We have Check Shoppers from Poorhouse Rock.
Bloodbath and Beyond Gun Shop from the Cartridge Family.
And we see that Larry lived at 652 8th Avenue, which is from Elementary School Musical.
Well, Larry's mother, Iris, walks up to Homer and the gang and gives them Larry's journal, which she found in his room. So they open it up and find a drawing of Carl, Homer, Larry, Lenny, and Moe standing arm in arm in front of a picturesque waterfall. The text on the drawing says, "Moe's Bros, my special place." And Lenny sees that it's all 5 of them, and Carl notices that it kind of looks like Serenity Falls. No, Steve, not Serenity Falls, the sex worker you met at the club last night, but Serenity Falls, the waterfall.
Ah, yes. They were great, but she was a little clumsy.
I imagine like Serenity Falls being played by the actress Christina Milioti, who was, famous for being the mother from How I Met Your Mother and many other things like Black Mirror and Fargo season 1 or 2, season 2, Palm Springs with Andy Samberg.
Ah, yes.
The first time I saw her was 30 Rock, where she played the kind of like that comedian who's like, I'm a sexy baby, like that character. But yeah, that's who I can see playing Serenity Falls.
I could definitely see that. So all of this
has Christina Milioti done a voice on The Simpsons? It sounds like something she might.
She played Barbara Belfry in the A Serious Flanders episode,
which was a parody of the Fargo.
Which makes sense.
Because I swear we talked about her before, so that does make sense. Okay.
Yeah.
She's our Serenity Falls. Steve, if we ever make a movie with a character named Serenity Falls, we're hiring her.
I like it.
We don't have money, so we're going to tell her to do it for free.
Please, Kristen, you can help us out. So all of this gives Lenny an idea. They should all take Larry's ashes to Serenity Falls, the waterfall, not the sex worker, together, saying that it's the sensitive thing to do because he's trying to live up to Marge's standards because, as we saw in that clip, Marge and the kids, expect Lenny to be the sensitive guy, even though that he's shown no sign of that. So he then glances at Marge, who gives him an approving nod. Larry's mother, who's been a real champ through all this, in really good spirits considering her son just died, thinks that this is a wonderful idea. Homer is reluctant to go to Serenity Falls, saying that it sounds stressful, but Marge grunts at him, and Homer states that he loves stress.
Well, Moe, Homer, Lenny, and Carl all hop in the Moe's truck, and the 4 amigos are on the road. Or as Lenny points out, the 5 amigos, since Larry's ashes are there as well. As the song continues, to see about all the lonely barflies confront their mortal dread, while their souls may be in need of searching. Homer, Lenny, Carl each take a swig from a flask as Moe drives on. I'm glad Moe's not drinking and driving. Good on Moe. Lenny appeals to the deceased, but Carl has someplace he'd rather be.
See, Larry, we're not so bad. We're taking you to a special place, Serenity Falls.
Let's get this over with. I got a big date with my girl. Naiba's taking me to see the reunited Kool and the Gang.
Didn't she date one of the gang?
One of? She dated Kool.
Whoa, cool! We spent 1,000,000 hours with this guy, and he never felt like one of us. He was a drunk, and we're just social drinkers who also drink alone.
2 different worlds.
I just hope that if Larry knew we were doing this, it would make him happy.
Yeah, as happy as Naima when she was dishing it out to Cool, huh?
Would you shut up?
Sorry. Hey, let's listen to some music, huh? Get your mind off of, things.
So they mentioned that Carl has a girlfriend named Naima. Have we met her, or was that just like an in-joke? Because I feel like that sounds familiar, but I'm looking on the wiki here.
About a year ago, in almost exactly season 34, episode 14, Carl Carlson writes again. Carl kind of distressed about living up to his quote-unquote blackness, and so he meets a woman named Naima who kind of helps him learn about his background.
All right, it's all coming back to me now. I remember that now. Yeah, that's why I was like, I think we've met her. So I like this continuity, much like I want them to. I think they've mentioned it twice where like the Simpsons actually have two dogs now. There's still Santa's Little Helper, but they have Santa's Little Helper's mom, which is technically supposed to be part of it. But we've seen her, I think, maybe once since that episode.
Yeah. I also really appreciate the fact that, this road trip, kind of straightforward about just like honoring Larry, but also, Lenny has his own deal with trying to like be sensitive and like be thoughtful. And then Carl has his own deal because he wants to like, he's got his own life going on and he doesn't like, he's doing this, but he kind of wants to be doing something else. So I like the complexity of the plot.
Yeah. It's like in olden times Simpsons, you would not mention that exposition for the B or C characters because it doesn't matter. It's all about Homer, Bart, and the rest.
Exactly.
Family members. But it's really just about Homer and Bart.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie too.
Right. Who's not in this episode.
All right. Well, writer strike, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So at an acceptable 8 motel, Homer and Moe share one bed while Lenny and Carl share the other. It's a take on the Super 8s, right?
Yeah.
Lenny places Larry's ashes on the nightstand between the two beds, turning on the lamp to highlight him. Carl asks for the lights to be turned off, but Lenny doesn't want to leave him alone in the dark, sharing his disbelief with Larry. So Carl reminds Lenny that Carl isn't actually there, which leads to a very lively and interesting debate about the afterlife.
He's dead.
His ghost is here.
Come on, Lenny. Ghosts ain't real, huh?
Yes, they are. I believe that Larry's ghost is hovering above us, blowing out birthday candles, helping figure skaters land their jumps, and cooling down hot soup with his icy cold ghost finger.
Lenny. Everybody knows that when you die, your soul becomes cosmic energy until your consciousness is reborn as a creature that befits your metaphysical station, be it Mighty Moose or a proud paramecium.
Shut your traps, you deluded freaks. Here's the deal. When you croak, it's just a sad, silent void. Nothing. And it's not even a regular nothing. It's an absence of everything, huh? Where no matter how hard you think, you can't imagine how nothing it is.
Like that abandoned mall where the J.C. Penney's is full of bears?
No.
You're all wrong. Why have questions when we have the Bible? I didn't serve 20 years to life in church not to cash in on those frequent prayer miles. I can't wait till I die so I can slide in next to Larry and eat buffalo angel wings for all eternity without a celery stick in sight.
Once again, the direction of this episode, really beautiful. I love the way that they use the hotel or motel artwork to zoom in, and then we see like each man's vision of the afterlife. And I gotta say that I think that Homer's right, not about heaven or eating buffalo angel wings, but I think, for me personally, a J.C. Penney that is abandoned and full of bears, that's my idea of heaven. What do you think, Craig?
I gotta go with Moe. I think Moe's right.
Just nothing, a dark void.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense to me, too.
Of course, you want to be in an abandoned JCPenney with bears. I get it. But, chicken wings. But yeah, I know, it's Moe. It's Moe. That's, sorry, guys. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes the most sense. I mean, there's part of me that, like, wants to believe in, like, reincarnation, that whole idea about, like, energy cannot cease to exist, so it's just transferred. So, I mean, like, the idea of, like, rebirth and reimagination seems possible, which would make sense, since I think, as you're about to point out, that Lenny and Carl are Buddhists. So they might believe in an afterlife that is, reincarnation. But I don't know. And I don't want to, like, poo-poo anybody's belief. It normally takes me a couple hours. But ghosts aren't real.
As I'm staring at my giant Ghostbuster collection. What are you talking about?
Sorry.
Man, and I've watched all 27 seasons of Ghost Adventures. I'm not joking, guys.
I believe that you have.
They get bad in the middle, but now they're just hilarious. Anyways, Team Mo on this side. How about you and your team Homer? Okay.
Yeah. So the men argue between ghosts, a void, a space moose, and wings, which causes Lenny to grab Larry's urn and run into the bathroom. The following morning, Homer wakes up ready for the first pee of the day, and he wants to make sure it really counts. So he's standing in front of the toilet, and he stretches his arm and accidentally knocks over the urn that Lenny left on the bathroom sink. So Homer tries to scoop up the cremains back into the urn when he notices something. Several blue gems among the ashes. He wonders what parts of Larry those were, and then uses a toilet brush to push the spillage back into the jar.
I also have to mention a connection from last week's episode, Homer the Mo, to this episode. Remember, they had a tinkling contest, and so 2 episodes now, like Homer, like having to piss
around the bar guys. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. All right. And another connection to I forgot was Mo and his shotgun. But I feel like Mo has a shotgun in almost every episode.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just then Mo walks into the bathroom and finds Homer on the floor next to the jar, scrub brush in hand, and then notices the blue stone among the ashes. So he shouts out, "Sweet Tabasco Sally," asking if them's what I think them's is. So he takes a sanitary seal off the water glass of the sink and uses the glass as a jeweler's eyepiece.
Sapphires.
Larry's ashes were full of them. What gives?
Larry must have had these Smurf stones crammed up his wazoo when they clematized them. He must have been moving stolen gems across the northern border by stuffing them up his southern pass. All I knows is Larry is dead and we are rich.
Oh my God, you're right. We gotta tell Lenny and Carl.
Quick sidebar. Do we really want to bother our gentlemen friends with this here, gemological situation?
Why wouldn't we?
Oh, bless your heart. But, whatever money these corpse jewels yield, we'd be crazy to split it 4 ways. Look, you and me need this money way more than Lenny and Carl, all right? You got an expensive trophy wife and like 1,000 crazy kids, and all I got is a crummy bar full of toxic black mold.
What?
I really like Mo's references to sticking things in Larry's ass.
That sounds like up your alley.
Yeah, like the putting the crossing things in the northern border with his southern pass and all that. I think it's kind of a Mo-esque way of being like distasteful about the recently deceased.
He's also like really laughing at his own jokes too.
Mm-hmm.
Calling them Smurfolians and then the southern pass, like you said, but like just laughing at his own jokes, much like we do on this podcast. We laugh at our jokes.
Yeah, and we're also very distasteful to the dead.
That's me laughing at the jokes.
Also, just like the fact that Mo knows Homer very well, and he doesn't know how many kids he has. He has like 1 million expensive kids.
But I mean, to Mo, he's got a crush on Marge, but that is like trophy wife for Mo.
That is true.
Well, Homer admits that he does have a lot of financial burdens, and that he looks at the 6 sapphires in Mo's hand and sees the faces of Marge, then Bart, Lisa, Maggie, Grandpa, and there's a 6th sapphire there. So who's it going to be? Oddly enough, it's Ralph Wiggum. I'm thinking, here's my Simpsons solvers theory. There's so many times where Ralph, being Ralph, probably gets injured, and Homer assumes this is his fault, but really it's Ralph's fault. So he's probably paying off of a lot of like medical bills for Ralph's behalf because Homer thinks he made Ralph stupider.
That makes sense, and it's much better than my theory.
Oh, what's your theory?
That Homer got drunk one night and knocked up Sarah Wiggum, and Ralph is secretly a child.
Which makes the Ralph in love with Lisa even worse.
Right. It makes a lot of things a lot worse and confuses the whole history of the show. But
but if we talk about where Springfield's at, maybe it is in the southern states because there is a lot of incest around Springfield and Shelbyville.
It's true. The Van Houtens are a fine example.
Yeah. Cletus. Yeah. The Spunklers. Yep. Yep. And so then, with your theory of Elisa and Ralph being related, and then also Bart being attracted to one of the Spunkler girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another okay. Springfield, Alabama. Is this where we're confirming Springfield now?
I think it is. Yeah, we used to say Missouri, but now it's definitely Alabama. No doubt about it.
Do we have listeners in Alabama?
Not anymore.
Oh man, that was my cousin too.
You'll see him at the reunion.
So, yeah. Well, we're getting married in the fall, so. Just then, Carl knocks on the door, eager to use the bathroom to record his gum depth, and Moe scoops the contents of the floor into the urn and prepares Homer to lie to their dearest friends.
So Moe opens the doors, wishing Carl a good morning, dearest Carlton. And Carl is suspicious, saying that he knows what's going on. Homer and Moe stammer nervously, and Carl says that they're getting up early to use the 2 free continental breakfast vouchers without him and Lenny. So Lenny takes Larry's urn to breakfast, but Moe reassures that Homer that they'll get their chance at riches.
So as someone who worked in the hospitality business, now usually in the hotels when they say have like free continental breakfast is for all the parties in the room.
Yes.
Is there ever like a hotel you've worked at where there was a voucher like, oh, only 2 people from your party can go and use it?
No.
Or is this the idea of the joke?
Yeah, I think because it's an acceptable 8 motel. Because also a continental breakfast sucks. Because it's usually like cold food like cereal, a fruit basket, maybe some pastries. Like it's not like a full breakfast. Continental is kind of just a fancy word for meaning the cheapest possible breakfast you can offer. And so the fact that the hotel would only offer 2 vouchers, although there's part of me that thinks that, it's a 2-bedroom room. So maybe they're thinking that like 2 bedrooms, 2 vouchers, which is incredibly cheap of them, but maybe that's what they do at acceptable 8.
Yeah, what employee wants to take vouchers? They don't want to talk to the customers.
No, they'd rather just have them eat the stale breakfast or whatever.
Look, I stayed at a, I almost said the name brand, but we'll call them the Western of Greatness Hotel when I was in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And their continental breakfast was, had all that, like the packaged Danishes and muffins, but they also had like a little like build your own waffle bar.
That's fun.
And, like little Jimmy Dean sausage sandwiches and fruits and cereals and all that stuff too, and coffees and juices. It was totally acceptable for this guy right here. I'm pointing to me, by the way.
Of course, yeah. That's fine. I mean, I don't necessarily need like a sit-down breakfast every time.
Yeah, and there was 2 of the employees who were, like cleaning tables. Even though it wasn't a restaurant, you still like would tip them, of course. I just remember, like, I don't know if I brought this up in the podcast, but like one of the workers that was working there, I know I think I told you about this, but like, she looked so like defeated.
Aww.
Like she like looked so sad, and I just like wanted to give her a hug. There's something on her face that just like looked at all of us assholes being like, I hate you all. And I just want to go and cry somewhere.
That's so sad to see.
Yeah. Because there's me like, oh, I'm just going to take this Danish, this muffin. I'm taking it back to my room on my trip back home, but where's the gratitude?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like spilling waffle batter everywhere. Look at those fucking slobs. We're a horrible group of people, us travelers.
As somebody who worked in hotels, yes, you are.
But like, and but I'm trying to save on water, so I never flush,
Yeah, if it's yellow, keep it mellow. If it's brown, don't flush it down.
Yeah. I'm just, when the housekeeping comes in, I want them to figure if they want to flush it, they can, or if they want to scoop it out, they can. I'm going to let them make the choice.
Also, my theory is that, like, 1, I'm environmentally conscious, and 2, I don't want to have them do that toilet paper fold thing. So I don't use toilet paper. Right. I just use the towels because they have to wash them anyway. So,
well, that, and I don't usually like hotel towels, so I usually use like the white linen to wipe my butt, and I leave it. I put it back on the bed too, which I'll make the bed.
Nice. That's nice of you. Yeah.
Yeah. I usually use the pillowcases to wipe my ass, and then put them back in the pillows, and then So I'm nice that way.
So when the maid comes, it's like that scene in Trainspotting when Spud stays over at the woman's house.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. In fact, you're right. I'm just going to start just shitting in the bed, not even use the toilet, so they don't have to clean the toilet.
There you go.
That's smart, you see. They're good.
Yeah.
I was going to go back to that with the voucher thing again. And my other joke is that I think if like Gen Zers watch this, they'll be like, that's probably normal at a hotel because they're so used to like Airbnbs and they don't use motels or hotels like we do.
That's true. In Airbnb, you get maybe like a basket full of tea bags and like a K-cup of coffee. And then if you're lucky, like, yeah, maybe a Hostess cupcake or something.
But then you got to like clean their gutters. You got to get the carpet professionally cleaned, iron all their clothes, sew a costume of the state of Florida for one of their kids, you know.
Yeah, you have to.
Airbnbs are
Computers are done.
You do more housework at an Airbnb than your actual house.
It's true.
Sorry, we're not a political podcast, but I'm going to say we're pro hotel motels on this podcast. Sorry, Airbnb.
That's right. Also, I mean, again, not a political podcast, but the Airbnb like structure is really bad for the communities that it's in, and usually raises rents, and it's real problematic. So yeah, hotels all day.
Airbnbs used to be a good idea, but now they suck.
That's right.
All right.
So let's get back on the road where Mo eyes the urn greedily as Carl notices that they're not heading directly towards Serenity Falls. Lenny says that they're taking the scenic route because he thought that Larry would appreciate seeing the wildflowers. He then adds that Lady Bird Johnson herself planted those wildflowers, which reminds Carl that he needs to get back his lady from the clutches of Kool and the Gang, especially Charles Bell, the bassist for Kool and the Gang, who is the titular Kool. Lenny thought that Carl wasn't worried, but of course he was. After all, Kool and the Gang won the 2014 Soul Train Music Legend Award.
They beat us out, though. We were nominated that same year, right? For
so close.
Soul Train. Yeah. Well, Carl grabs the steering wheel, trying to get back on the highway. So the truck swerves, and the urn goes flying, rolling in the back. And then from the back seat, Mo slams on the brakes, and the urn rolls to safety. Lenny apologizes to Carl, then vows to go back on the highway. Carl, wanting to do right by Larry, tells Lenny that he can go whatever way he wants. So the two men share a look of friendship, and then Lenny floors it. And then the urn falls out of the truck and spills out onto the road. And Lenny and Carl shout out, "Larry!" in unison, while Homer and Mo cry, "My secret gems!" in unison. I like this little bit of storytelling that it's the tumultuous journey for Mo and Homer and their thoughts is like literally like a car crash, like, you know, with Lenny and Carl playing out their like fears and trying to get away with this little scheme, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting storytelling, I think. It's a little nuanced. So Mo runs out of the truck using his hands to scoop up the cremains. There's a lot of hand scooping of cremains, which I find really kind of gross. And the sapphires.
Sexy.
Saying that it's crystallized Larry chunks. As he does so, he whispers to himself, "Gems, gems, gems, precious gems." So Lenny and Carl discover the jewels, and Mo shares his version of what happened when they're suddenly stopped by the law.
There were sapphires in Larry's urn?
And you knew?
Look, guys, we can explain. You see...
Homer talked me into screwing yous over so we could keep them gems all for ourselves, all right?
What?
You liar!
Hands up! Back away from the urn.
Y'all are under arrest for violating Section 545 of the U.S. Commerce Code. Jewel smuggling. Y'all get in the frunk.
When he said, "Hands up," did you think it was Duffman?
Is that Dan Kessler do that voice then?
I think so, yeah.
Duffman?
Or
yeah.
Is it that or Hank?
You better find out because we don't want to be corrected again.
I cannot do this again, yeah.
It is voiced by none other than TV man himself, white American Hank Azaria.
Ah, yes.
So I'm going to assume this is a Hank Azaria cop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was probably meant for someone like a Charles Napier, but Charles Napier has since left this mortal coil.
Sadly. Much like Larry.
Yeah. Or Larry. Well, the four men get into the truck's frontal trunk, and as the police officer drives down the road, Homer realizes that frunk means front of truck. It's kind of like, I'm not saying joke jail, but maybe joke probation, because I feel like there's a lot of Homer jokes where, you know, someone says a thing, like trunk, frunk, and then there's a beat, and sometimes there's a commercial break or whatever, then Homer is like, "Oh, that."
Mm-hmm.
Is it a joke probation or joke jail?
I think joke probation is fair because it is kind of a tired gag of Homer being like, oh, that's why this is the thing, this obvious thing. But yeah, it's not quite offensive enough to go straight to jail.
All right. Well, after some worried cries, Lenny declares that he's not going to jail just because Homer and Moe were gem smuggling. And Carl calls Lenny a dummy and reminds him that Homer and Moe weren't going to share the sapphires they found in the Larry crumbs. So Moe continues his lies as the four men discover some harsh truths about their so-called friendship.
I wanted to tell you, but Homer threatened to set my bar on fire.
What? You told me to keep the gems a secret, and I only listened to you because I'm highly suggestible.
No, you're not.
You're right, I'm not.
Who cares? All I know is we were the victims of an A1 screw job.
This is the worst thing you guys have ever done.
Oh yeah, Carl? Well, what about when you won a year's supply of Old El Paso taco kits and never invited me over?
You won that contest? I wrote the taco poem. You must have submitted it as yours.
Maybe I just got tired of hearing your voice that sounds like a duck with a sinus infection.
The box contains seasoning and 5 broken shells. You and your family buy everything else. Old El Paso.
He does sound like a duck. Now I'll never not hear it.
You knew broken shells are my thing?
Is this what we're like when we're sober?
We're nothing like the Sex and the City broads.
Wow, a lot of fun stuff from that clip, Steve. Would you agree with me on that sentence?
Indeed. As clips go, that one was interesting.
When Homer's like, I'm not very suggestible, and then Moe's like, no, you're not. It's like, you're right, I'm not. Like, very funny.
Yeah, good stuff. Also, the poem about the taco kits, it was okay. I mean, I don't know if it deserves to win.
Do you buy taco kits? Because you'll see them at the stores like Old El Paso, which sells like, as Lenny would describe, like you get the shells, then they give you like a whole taco sauce packet and then like seasoning for your protein.
Right. I don't tend to buy those. I tend to I'll get sometimes I'll use the spice packet, but a lot of times I'll just make my own because it's not that hard. It's basically, cumin, chili powder, and some other spices.
Definitely the sauce packet or the spice packet. I agree. It's because there's a lot of additives. They put a lot of like cornstarches in there that you don't need, like thickening agents. You don't really need that, guys. But I will buy like the Taco Bell brand products because sometimes I just want to try to recreate Taco Bell in my home, which I've not successfully done. I will buy the Taco Bell seasonings, the sauces. For a time, they were selling Taco Bell shredded cheese, which is really funny.
Yeah.
I still had to buy it. And then recently, I bought Taco Bell shells, corn shells that said hot sauce flavored. And I thought, okay, they probably can't sell maybe the Doritos Locos Taco, which I'm not a huge fan of. But, I get them. And much like Lenny describes, I want to say half of them were all just broken.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do with this? So that's my experience with it. It's just either make your own, it's annoying. Look, a flour tortilla or a corn tortilla is like the easiest thing to make, but it's not. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's just 2 ingredients, but still, I'm just going to buy it all made.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I spent $50 on trying to recreate a basic dollar taco from Taco Bell, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Although these days, Taco Bell, it's like spending $50 is just like an item there now, right?
Yeah, you got to get a mortgage just to get a chalupa.
Oh, I want a taco salad, not D. Just to live in. That thing's huge.
5-layer burrito, more like 5-figure burrito.
Yeah. That's why they got rid of the 7-layer burrito, Steve. No one makes 7 figures in this country unless you're Elon Musk or Johnny Rockefeller.
Or that dog from Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Yo quiero Taco Bell, yo quiero all my money.
All right.
All right.
Hey, Lenny offers that when you take the 4 of them out of the bar, what's holding them together? And the answer, Steve, is nothing. So Homer thinks about how all Larry wanted out of life was to be a part of the friend group, which leads to Moe to call Larry a dumb dead chump. Then they hear the sheriff tell his boss that he found the idiots who took Larry's last haul, then calls them a bunch of losers who hate each other. He tells his boss that it's all taken care of. And then we learn who he is working for.
Excellent work, Mickey No Loose Ends.
So what you want me to do with them?
Let them go. They know nothing.
Got it. No loose ends.
Oh, I gotta pay more attention to the nicknames when I hire these guys. Now, can you go pick up Connie at the airport, the Bruno wife banger?
Hey, with pleasure.
No loose ends.
This psycho ain't a sheriff. He's a psycho!
Oh, and we're his loose ends. We're all gonna die.
Oh, what if Letty's right and we're all gonna be ghosts?
What if Mo was right and it's just a void? Incomprehensible nothing. I don't think I can handle that.
No. Homer's heaven makes sense to me now. Hey, Lord, I repent everything I ever done. That he knows about.
Guys, I think Carl's stupid energy crap is real, and I'm totally coming back as one of those koalas with an STD.
Bruno wife banger.
Why would you hire him to pick up your wife?
I love those like silly mob names.
Yeah.
It's like every time though, like I see a Fat Tony clip, it's always like a parody of mobster movies, but like specifically like Goodfellas. And I always just want to like rewatch Goodfellas after every time I see Fat Tony.
Mm-hmm. It's a good movie. And like, I always think about the Animaniacs and the Good Feathers because
yeah,
I didn't put that together for it took me too long to realize that was a parody of Goodfellas, even though it's right there, the name. It's always a lot of fun.
Right. But who would have known that the main bad guy was Fat Tony, right?
I know. It's a surprise. It also shows that Larry's life wasn't so sad and boring as we thought because he was working with the mob.
You know what's funny is like I was watching this episode and I thought, are they going to pull a fake out that Larry was setting the guys up, not setting the guys up, but using them as the mules to get, like, thinking that he was dead and he was going to fake his death and he just needed the gems or the sapphires, like, somewhere else. That's what I thought was going on because there's a reference that Mo makes in the beginning where he's like, gambling's for, like, sophisticated people like James Bond. And this is kind of like a plot element in a James Bond movie, Diamonds Are Forever, where they cremate a dead body to smuggle diamonds. Mm-hmm. So then the urn is full of diamonds. And much like a sapphire is, a fun gem like a diamond, I thought like, oh, maybe they're doing this like James Bond Diamonds Are Forever type parody. And maybe there's a little bit of that in here, but I just thought that was a fun connection. There's the James Bond Diamonds Are Forever and gems in sapphires and urn connection.
Yeah, I like that. That's neat.
There was also a Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode where in Quark's bar, there was a regular barfight named Lorne who didn't speak, much like Larry. He was always there, but not hanging out with the main crew. And an episode where, spoilers, he fakes his death to smuggle like some contraband.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I thought there was but we, of course, Larry's gone, but I just thought this was a fun parallel.
That is, I wouldn't have thought in a million years that this would have paralleled a Deep Space Nine episode so accurately.
But not really.
Yeah.
Different endings.
Yeah. But in this one, Mickey No Loose Ends steps out of his truck, rifle in hand. In the Frink, Homer reaches behind his head and finds a Flare King flare gun. He plans to blast Mickey when the trunk is opened. The other guys murmur that the flare gun will save them. Then, as Mickey pops open the Frink, Homer fires, which causes the truck to push back and fall down a cliff. The men cry out as the truck slides down a hill until it stops, teetering on another cliff.
It's funny we talk about barflies, and you said cliff from, Normandy, cliff from my shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that scene where the trunk opens and is about to blast the sheriff with the flare gun. But has that ever been like something in a movie or TV show where the bad guy is going to pull the prisoner out of the trunk, but having a flare gun or some sort of like, and then just like blast them right in the face and their head explodes? Like, is that a shot from a movie or TV? Because like, I'm just saying I want to do that in a movie right now.
Yeah, I don't know that I know that as to be a reference from anything, but it is a really cool idea. Like the idea of the flare as a weapon, like you say, and then just it's cool.
It seems like something Tarantino would do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because there's always a trunk shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then so like it'll be a girl in a trunk with her feet exposed.
Yeah.
With the flare gun. And the person that opens the truck will be played by, I don't know, let's say Brad Pitt. And then the flares shot into his mouth, and then part of his mouth explodes, because that's what flares do.
Mm-hmm.
So Brad Pitt has this silver jaw. And then, like, how did he get that silver jaw? Because he's like a hitman or something like that. And then do a flashback of how he got it, because just half his jaw gets blown off. But then, the whole movie's got this cool silver jaw. That's his, like, signature move.
Which would be really cool because, as we all know, Brad Pitt loves to eat in his films. So you get to highlight that silver jaw more so. So that's a great idea.
And he's eating things that you normally wouldn't bite because our jaws aren't strong enough. So he takes, like, walnuts or something like that and just bites into it, or a baby skull. I don't know. Oh, baby skulls are pretty soft. We could probably bite into those.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah. All right, Steve, let's write Tarantino's new script for him.
Okay.
He's obviously not doing the movie critic now, if you've heard. He's
it's true.
Shelved that movie. All right. So we're going to call it the Silver-Jawed Baby Muncher.
And there should be an elephant in it since he loves to film trunks so much.
Hey, Carl tells everyone to stay still, saying that if they stay balanced, they're not going to go over. And Mo adds that if one person jumped out, he'd save himself and everyone else would die. And Homer wonders if any one of them would jump out and doom the rest. And then all four of them say no. Oh, they share a hug as the Frunk starts to tip over. Lenny states that their only hope is to jump out at the same exact time. So Lenny adds that they either all survive or they all find out what the afterlife is together. Unless, as Mo points out, it's just a void and it's all nothing.
Which it probably is. So they all agree that on 3, they'll jump. Lenny counts, and when he gets to 3, he, Carl, and Mo all jump. Then they cheer. But Homer, still in the Frunk trunk, says that you don't jump on 3, you jump on go. As he explains this, the truck begins to fall off the cliff. Lenny argues that the 3 is the go, and as Homer plummets towards the river below, he shouts, "Agree to disagree!"
All right, Steve, real quick. Are you yes on 3 or yes on go? Who's right, Homer or Lenny?
See, I tend to go for... I think I'm on Team Lenny on here. If you say you're going to go on 3, it's 1, 2, 3.
We are both on the same side. Lenny is correct.
Yeah.
So Lenny, Mo, and Carl are on the right.
Take that, Homer.
Well, yeah. So in the flames from the flare gun, Mickey holds Larry's urn and says that he should probably leave, but he has to make sure that there are no loose ends. So then a tree falls on him, knocking him out, causing Larry's urn to roll down the hill, and it rolls past Carl, Lenny, and Mo, who are in disbelief. And Carl's like, it's probably someone else's urn. Like, yes, it's another urn. But Homer is still falling toward the water, and the truck's Frunk watches as the urn bounce on the ground and then rolls into the air and then wedges itself between the tire of the truck, stopping the vehicle.
So the other guys run down, and Homer's lying on the ground, and he asks what happened. Lenny says that Larry saved his life, grabbing the urn, which causes the truck to fall off the cliff. As it silently bursts into flames, Mo comments that those electric trucks even explode quiet. They then find that they have arrived at Serenity Falls, which they assume is Larry's special place. That is, until they realize that doesn't look anything like the drawing.
So Carl shouts that the whole stupid trip where they were driven apart and then came back together with much deeper bond was all for nothing. And Homer has a realization. He knows where Larry wanted to take his death dust and bone chunks.
So, as Cherry Still Love by Kool and the Gang plays, we see a pristine waterfall. The camera zooms out to show that it is a moving picture Duff ad. You know those ads that show a waterfall, but it looks like it's moving?
Yeah, you see these in like a lot of like dive bars. And I just remember seeing one that was like, I want to say it was like a Ham's beer or like a Rainier beer.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cool. I'm like, I really wanted to buy it, but I was like, this one was like, I'm a little drunk. And like, I'll give you $2,000 for it, which, you know, the bartender's like, no, the owner doesn't want to sell that. Like $5,000, like, all right, you've had enough to drink.
For a thing that you could probably buy on eBay for like $80.
Right.
But
they're cool. They're really cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very evocative of like the late 70s, early 80s. And yeah, Ham seems like the perfect beer to have that kind of thing.
That beer, but yes.
But yeah, it was, we zoom out to see that the Duff ad was hanging at Moe's all along. So Carl, Lenny, and Homer each stand around Larry's urn, each with a Duff in hand. And then Moe places a sign full of Duff in front of the urn as Moe says, "Welcome home, Larry. Enjoy your special place." Carl says that it's too bad that they lost the sapphires, and Lenny assumes that they fell out of the urn. Moe adds that it's a real mystery, and as he laughs out with a little bit of pain, we see an X-ray image of his stomach, and it is full of sapphires that were presumably up Larry's ass.
And now they're in Moe's ass.
Yeah.
So Moe probably swallowed them rather than... I'm assuming like Larry probably... what actually I'm assuming is the sapphires were on his body when he was cremated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the poop germs are gone by then.
Probably, yeah.
Or he just had them in a bag.
Yeah. I mean, and if you did... You're right, though. If you did shove them up his keister, the fire would sanitize them, I would assume.
Yeah, and that was like kind of one of the plot points of Diamonds Are Forever's. The diamonds were just on a dead dude's body, and then it was burned, and the diamond survived.
Well, yeah. Moe's got the sapphires. Everybody's a little bit closer, and they get to honor Larry. And that's our episode.
Yeah, Moe's going to have a hard time shitting those sapphires out.
Oh, that sounds so painful.
It's worth it, though. Some of those could be worth a lot of money. Who knows?
That's true. Since that is our episode, let's take a little break, think about what we just saw, and we'll come right back and finish up our discussion of Cremains of the day.
Let's do it.
We'll be right back. Alrighty, Craig, we're back. Let's finish up our discussion on Cremains of the Day. We'll talk about what we liked in this episode, what made us laugh, maybe a most valuable jokester, and what we're watching next week. But before we do all of that, I think it's always a good time to give gifts, and we'd like to give things from this episode. And so, Craig, I got you, might be kind of obvious, but, I think that you'd appreciate it, that lovely waterfall moving picture, because you can't get enough of that wonderful Duff, and to always remind you in your man cave or whatever, I got you that. And I also, because, I like to give, I also got you an urn full of somebody's ashes. There's no jewels in there, but it's a person there, so got something, a conversation piece on your mantle.
It's a little interesting, Steve. Before we record this podcast, I was kind of sitting in the studio setting things up, and I saw a little bag with a little bow on it, like a little leather satchel that, I don't know, might house some sapphires. But after I said I like those moving picture paintings, you quickly wrote something down on your notes and then hid the sapphire bag. Were you originally going to give me sapphires?
I don't know what you're talking about, Craig. I don't know.
Steve, you seem to be choking on something there.
It's nothing.
All right, I'm going to take my X-ray sunglasses that I got from the back of a comic book from 1953 and look inside your stuff. Boobies! I see your boobies! Wow! That's the gift that keeps on coming.
That's
giving.
You're the gift that keeps on coming.
Jesus. I appreciate my painting and enjoy your sapphire, Steve. I only got you one little gift here, Steve. Put out your hand real quick.
Okay.
It's a little small and a little flat and a little gold. What is it, Steve?
Small, flat, and gold, and from Craig. Is it your penis?
I was hoping you said Donald Trump's penis.
Oh.
But sure, it's my dick. No, Steve, it's not my dick. It's a key. Yeah, what's that a key to, Steve, you ask? Well, you haven't asked me yet. Can you ask me real quick?
What's that key to, Craig?
There's an initials at the back that say JP. That's right, Steve.
Oh.
It's the key to the J.C. Penney's.
Oh.
That has bears in it.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I was worried that it was Jack Plance's house, but that's much better.
Jack Plance's house probably has some bears in it. Who knows?
He was a fit guy. Maybe, he could fit guys.
He did that one-arm push-up when he was like 94 at the Oscars.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. No one understands his references. Steve, let's continue.
Alrighty. Craig, what made you laugh from this episode?
I loved the beginning, like Reverend Lovejoy, like assuming that Homer is the one that's dead. The funeral with Polly wanting a cracker. It's a dead little old parrot. Very fun. Hey, let's not get political, but the RFK scene was good. There was some sadness, with the music video of poor old Larry and his sweet mother. I'm going to give the MVJ to, let's say, you know what? This is the only time that's going to happen. We're going to give my MVJ to Larry.
Oh.
The reason is because of if it wasn't for Larry's death, hilarity would never ensue.
Wow. Deep.
How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I think that I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that the sports stuff up front with Mo placing the bet and his reaction was very funny. Bart and Lisa crashing funerals is just a funny concept. And the Polly wants a cracker got a laugh out of me. Bruno Wife Banger, very funny. Just it's a funny name.
Yeah.
This episode wouldn't exist if Larry didn't exist and also ceased to exist. So I also have to give my MVJ in memoriam to the late and great Larry. We also learned that his last name is Dalrymple. Larry Dalrymple, let's honor him by making him the MVJ. He might not have been outwardly the funniest, but he's the funniest in our hearts. The animation was very beautiful and thought-provoking, as was the talk about afterlife. So, all in all, Craig, what did you think of this episode?
It's fun to watch these episodes that we're enjoying more. Like, talk about John Frink writing Pixelated and Afraid from a couple seasons ago, and really relating to us with, like, the married life. You just want to spend those blanket nights watching TV with your loved one, right? Mm-hmm. And how we related to this. And this one, as we come up to the age, you get older and older, we're just going to be surrounded by more and more death. And even like the smallest of person, maybe like not significant to your life like Larry was with everyone else, it's going to happen. There's going to be a moment where someone that we know, an acquaintance, passes on. It's like, how much do you know about that person, right? And this is one of those things, like, I think that they didn't really talk about in older episodes of The Simpsons, of like a character type. It's a cartoon. You really don't need to kill characters off, especially what I think is funny is killing Larry off, who's a voiceless character.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow this episode made me care about a character. If he has spoke before, it was maybe once or twice. Let's see here. The internet says Harry Shearer portrayed him. So maybe there's one line that he said, like in the background,
right?
Whatever. But I think they did such a great job of relating to this as like a coworker, right? Like if a coworker passed away, like, do you want to go to their funeral? Do you need to? But maybe you should. This episode is creating more questions than giving answers. Like, who was Larry then? Like, he's this sapphire smuggler. He does work for the mob. And then my other concern was Sam the barfly. Where was he?
Yes.
Because I always assume Sam and Larry are probably best buds because they're always sitting next to each other. So maybe there is more backstory for Larry that we'll see in the future. Maybe we'll find out what happened to Sam. What if Barney started hanging out with Larry and Sam this whole time?
Yeah.
There could be a whole story of like Mo hanging out with those guys when he's not hanging out with the... But there you go. Like, what if when Lenny, Carl, and Homer all at the nuclear power plant, maybe Mo's hanging out with Sam, Larry, and Barney.
Maybe Sam's also a great humanitarian, and he's over in Nicaragua with Barney helping with the well.
And maybe, just maybe, those sapphires, Larry was going to help with Sam and Barney to give them to the people in Nicaragua so they could get money. He was going to sell those gems. He was going to go out of country, sell those to help those people.
Oh, yeah.
Simpson solvers?
We did it.
He was going to betray the mob, and he knew if he did, he was going to be a dead man. So he sacrificed himself with hopes that those sapphires get to the people that need them to raise money for that village.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have, like, that night taken some sort of medication or drugs to off himself. And he figured the only people that would help him would be the bar crew but not knowing that they're that dumb that they wouldn't fulfill the mission. Only Barney might have done that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Wow.
This is the rantings of a lunatic. What were you asking? What I think of this episode? It was fun. I liked it.
Yeah.
How about you? Let me give a ranking.
Yeah.
Give a ranking real quick. Sapphires can be, based on what I see with Google here, it says a price from some sapphires per carat could be anywhere from $25 to over $11,000. So between $25,000 and $11,000, I'll give this episode 14 trillion. How about you, Steve?
Fair enough. This is oddly poignant episode for, like you say, a character that we don't really know or care about. And I think it's a fascinating exploration because, not to make this about me, but like in my life, I've been like what I consider to be kind of like the sidekick of other people's lives where, I'll be there and like I'll be around people who know other people and I'm kind of like the weird one. So I kind of know what it's like to be Larry. And I would personally have a rich personal life in my own mind, but like in other people's perception, they don't know what's going on. And so they might think that I am like Larry, like a sad, balding drunk. And I mean, at a point I was, but now I'm all the way bald. But I think that that's just such a fascinating way to look at things and a way to explore. And I think that, it kind of forces the guys like Homer and Moe and Lenny and Carl to kind of examine their own lives and think about what's valuable to them. It quietly makes Lenny look kind of deep and introspective because aside from just Marge's thinking that he's sensitive, he is kind of like forced to kind of reckon with who he is. I think the way that he went out of his way to show Larry the wildflowers is a sweet moment that shows growth from him. And then, Carl has to examine like what's important to him. So he wants to get back to Naima. And, they make a joke about her, being with Cool in the gang. But also he just kind of realizes like, oh, this is somebody I love. And that's what I want. So I think that exploration is really kind of deep and interesting when we look at older episodes versus new. We're finding these episodes, might not be as chock full of goofy jokes, but there's like a real depth and a real emotional kind of exploration. I think that's kind of great. And there's funny stuff too. I like, in the beginning, the sports stuff with the football. I think that's like a lot of fun, and it kind of harkens back in the day when the Simpsons wouldn't be on before football, and so there'd be like, all this football talk, and I think that's great. And I think that this is just a really interesting, weird episode, and it does create a lot of odd things. What is Larry's relationship with the mob, and was he secretly a do-gooder trying to save people, or was he just some guy who was just trying to get some riches? We don't know, and I think that anytime that you're left with a narrative that has you wondering more, that's kind of an interesting thing to do. And so, I don't know, I think this is a great, fun, weird episode that is not what I would expect from The Simpsons. And I think that, 35 years in, that they're not just kind of phoning it in, but creating strange, weird episodes like this. I think it's great. And I think that the discussion of friendship, this discussion of like who we are versus what people think we are, all great. So if I had to give this a ranking, if you go to your local Safeway, an Old El Paso taco kit costs $4.99, and they talk about how they won a year's supply. And so let's figure that, a year's supply would be, people have Taco Tuesday, so $4.99 for once a week for a year. That's 52 weeks in a year, so that's $259.48. Out of $259.48, I'm going to give this a $207.35. So, about 40 weeks of tacos, which I think is plenty. That's what I thought. We want to know what you think. But before we do that, we got to find out what we're watching next week. Oddly enough, we had a new episode this week. So that, of course, means that next week we are off yet again. What I'm saying is we have another old episode to go to, which means we have to go to our good friend, the Wheel of Random. So let's bust that out and let's give it a spin to see which season we're in. Alrighty, we've got season 27.
Wow, 27.
Whoa. Let's give it another spin to see which episode we're watching. All right, we have season 27, episode 22, which I think would be the season finale. Craig, what do you think the title of that episode is?
So this episode was called Cremains of the Day, which was a parody of Anthony Hopkins' film Remains of the Day. Also had Superman himself in it, Steve, playing Jack Lewis.
Dean Cain?
Christopher Reeve. No, Christopher Reeve. Yeah, Hugh Grant, that's right. Superman himself, Hugh Grant. And Emma Thompson, Superman herself, as Miss Kenton. So, that, of course, was a classic Anthony Hopkins film, Steve. Anthony Hopkins. Not Daniel Day-Lewis. Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins.
All right. Who's starred in some great films from Howard's End to Transformers: The Last Kingdom. That's right. Anthony Hopkins. Like any fashion that we do on this podcast, we assume that the next week's episode is going to have some similarity with this week's episode. So I'll say that the classic 2019 Anthony Hopkins movie, The Two Popes, will be a parody of The Two Dopes.
Ooh.
The Two Annoyed Grunts.
That's fun. I like that. But unfortunately, no, that is not the title. It is Orange is the New Yellow.
Well, that's a parody of a television Orange is the New Black.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to assume that that's what the plot is. You said season 27?
Indeed.
Because I'm assuming that around that time that Orange is the New Black was really popular on Netflix. So why not parody it? I would think it's going to be a prison-related story because of the title. But I think it's going to be a flash-forward episode, much like Bar to the Future or Lisa's Wedding. I think we're going to do something similar where I believe it might have been Janie. You guys might have to correct this on one, but when Lisa becomes a vegetarian, it's probably Sherry or Terry was like, "Does that mean you're going to marry a carrot?" And then Lisa's like, "Yes, I'm going to marry a carrot."
Oh.
So what happens is in this plot, it's in the future, Lisa doesn't marry a carrot. She just eats them all and turns orange.
Oh.
Because if you eat too much carrots, as we learned on the TV show Scrubs,
Exactly.
you'll turn orange. So what happens is Lisa eats so much carrots, she turns orange, and then she marries herself. So Lisa marries herself because she ate all the carrots. And in the B story, Bart and Ralph invent a drug that's worse than meth.
Wow. That sounds like a great episode that I'd love to watch, but unfortunately, that is not what we're watching next week because Orange is the New Yellow, which aired on May 22nd, 2016, involves Marge getting arrested for letting Bart go to the park unsupervised. And so while Marge enjoys a welcome break from being a mom and wife in jail, Homer, on the B story, struggles to manage all of the household responsibilities.
I feel like we've seen this plot before in other episodes of Simpsons where Homer has to do the motherly duties, as it would have been called at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a few weeks ago when we had the episode where Marge became the DoorDash cook and Homer had to, quote unquote, cook for the family, but he's getting delivery. You saw it there.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this is some trod territory, but I'm still curious to see it. Do you have any recollection of this episode?
No, I really don't.
Yeah, nor do I.
Thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah, of course. And speaking of thanks, we want to thank you for listening and say, hey, if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at 138simpsons@gmail.com. And you can also visit us on the socials like your YouTube or your Instagram or, hey, even your threads at 138simpsons.
Sure. And hey, call us by going to the show's notes and scrolling down. And there'll be a little button that says leave a voicemail. You can just do it that way. Talk to us. Leave us a comment, a question, an answer, your social security. Just give us that. That's fine. And also your mother's maiden name and the street you're born on and your first pet's name. That's fine too. But also get some merch. tpublic.com/user/AllYouGrabBoys.
And hey, if you want to go to your favorite podcatching app and leave us 5 stars or the equivalent, that would be great. Leave us a review, but you don't need to write a real review. Just tell us what you think happens when you die. What is the afterlife for you?
Ooh, scary.
That's right. Alrighty, for this week, I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Steve.
And I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Craig.
And remember, it's an absence of everything, where no matter how hard you think, you can't imagine how nothing it is.
We're nothing like the Sex and the City broads.
Shut your traps, you deluded freaks.